if you are getting in your client's way of their growth, you got to put that stop sign up and go, hold on a second. Where do I need to grow? Where do I need to evolve? Whether it be as a coach, whether it be as a human, whether it be as a business leader, it could be any of and all of those and more.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Britton, and welcome to the Coaching Money Podcast. I've been on a mission for the last 20 years to expand the coaching conversation to many. Along with my co-host, Evana Valle, we're going to be exploring coaching as it relates to conversations, connection, and change in both personal and professional settings. Coaching Money is about creating empowering and thought-provoking spaces for conversation which strengthen relationships and enhance results. Throughout the Coaching Money podcast, we'll share tools, practices, and approaches to support you in your conversations, one dialogue at a time. Hey, welcome back, Evana. We're sitting down again for another Coaching Money podcast episode. Today's topic is all about coaching mastery, and I know you've been coaching a long time, so have I. I hope that today's episode is a bit of an inspiration for coaches to think about what's next on their journey. And so as you think about the new year, which we're just about to step into as we're recording this, like what's next on your journey to coach mastery?
Well, I think for me, it's really around deepening and widening my intellectual property, really like tapping into the wisdom of the years that I have been coaching. I've been coaching for more than 10 years, and I've been doing and really those anchor points of the core of my work, and really being able to speak more to that being my intellectual property. So that will build my credibility in the field, the line of work that I do, I think is really where I'm putting some focus, while also continuing to create programming as we just finished the 30-day sprint, moving the book over the finish line, which is part of all that. So it's big stuff. Yeah. How about you?
Well, I think ongoing growth is key as a coach, right? It's like, even though I've been doing this work now full-time 20 and a half years, but I've been coaching for almost 23 years. Yeah. We've got to keep growing. And that's what brings us into sort of the framework that I first started introducing about a year ago around coaching mastery, because I think a lot of people work towards a credential, whether it's the ACTC, the new advanced credential in team coaching. I think that's it. Actually, the learning's got to keep going. And so what I'm going to be sharing with you today is 5 areas that we actually double down on in our Amplify the Coaching Biz Mastermind framework that I think is useful for people to think about. So they are, what are your toolkit and skills? Who are you working with? Being able to better serve the needs of our clients is at the heart of coaching mastery. Absolutely. So what are you noticing about who you're serving right now? There's a whole business layer, which most of you know I'm so super excited about. I think, we've got to grow not only great skills, but we've got to be able to go out and do the work. And that means we've got to create sustainable business systems. So we're going to talk a bit today about business as well as growing self, because of course there's a notion of coach as instrument, obviously very integral to our work, but gets a lot of focus. And then finally, in our coach mastery piece in the Amplify model, it really is about being able to coach a diverse set of people, whether that's teams, groups, individuals, as well as coaching a variety of topics. So those are our 5. And I think today is going to be a bit of a spin-off. We'll have probably episodes down the road digging a bit deeper into those, but I'll run through those again. But maybe before I do, which one captures your eye or your ears?
Well, in my intro, I was really speaking about the business piece, but even as you said that development, like at the core of part of what we have to do, and where I'm really looking at too, is that self, like that development of myself as a coach, but also leveraging where I stand out as a coach, like leveraging my skills. And even being in Italy, like how can I bring my strengths, my competencies, my skills to serve this market in a way that makes me different than others? So to me, it's also that, like, part of the coach mastery is being able to see where your strengths are and adapting yourself, because that will create a sustainable business. But that often requires more training, more learning, more development, because we're like, most of us, I would say, I would assert as coaches, we are lifelong learners. And ICF supports us in terms of we have to have those CCEs every couple of years. But where are we growing? Where am I growing? And where do I want to grow? Identifying what's that skill that's going to support me to get to that next level, whatever that next level is. So I say that to all of you listeners. Where are you now? What is your next level? And what does that look like for you? So you can continue to serve and grow and create a sustainable business or a sustainable internal department for your organization so the coaching doesn't get cut.
And I think that's a reality right now. I think as we record this, we've been in the golden age of coaching. And if we don't demonstrate business impact, continue to be that way. And so I think Coach Mastery is really about building that business acumen on all levels, whether you're external or internal. It's not just about showing up to coach. And I would assert, as a coaching supervisor and a mentor coach, I meet a lot of coaches every day, right? And I think many have been sitting on the benches of bigger programs. They show up, they're holding caseloads of 40, 50 clients at a time. Yet at what quality? What quality? So I think today's episode might be a little bit provocative, which certainly that's what I like to do, because there's a lot of noise in the industry, I will be the first to say. And is it really, do people really know what they're talking about? So I'm going to be bold in saying that today. We are very seasoned. And as an organization who has been training group coaches for 20 years now, there's no other industry, there's no other business that has been doing this work for so long at the depth that we have. And so what are you doing to build out these 5 areas for your own self? So we'll spend a few minutes looking at each one. And I think, let's start with the business. We've been talking about the business a little bit. What do you think is let's maybe go to this, like you talked about strengths, right? So I love that, because we've done other episodes on strengths. We've done other episodes too on, as we were talking about, we can't give you the exact number, but you can look it up on, like, how do you stand out as a coach and what is that unique capability? Do you also want to stand out, right? I think there's an interesting discussion here. Is our role to stand out? Well, if you're going to be a business in business, you need to stand out. Maybe not, though, as a coach, and certainly not as a one-on-one coach, but as a group coach or a team coach, I think there really is need for us to be enhancing that presence and being very clear on how we're showing up, what we're holding a stake for. So there is a business layer to standing out and a self-mastery component of this as well. What do you think?
Absolutely. Absolutely. If I look back over the 10 years that I've been coaching, as many coaches, you do different things to be able to support your business to be sustainable, whether it be working on a coaching platform or whatever that looks like. But we, in our programs, and oftentimes the people that are coming into our programs are those exact people who are on the platforms and who want more for themselves, right? Who want more for themselves. So they built the coaching muscle, the skill, often using intellectual property or platform that has built some stability, but they also see something in themselves that is more. They want more. And our coach training programs, at least mine, didn't really support business skill. How do you support yourself in business skills? And I think to be able to make that leap, to be able to, scale that business, there is that foundation needed, absolutely, to do that. And so when I think about, like, my years, is having taken various courses, even jumping into your 7-month program to really support identifying what is that vision? What is the vision of my business? What is the vision which connects to what I stand for? And I'm going to say this, I really waffled. I'm still kind of like, hold on, where am I putting my foot? And I think that's all part of that process. Yeah. Especially people who are moving abroad or wanting an international, like, who want to have a business, like, really looking at where are your strengths. For me right now, I'm really exploring the whole piece of bringing a coaching approach to English conversation of professionals. And I'm enjoying it so much to really be working with professionals who have those they have so much competency in their native language.
Mhm.
And yet you put them having to speak at a conference or whatever else in English. Like, you see all of those belief systems, all those things below the waterline, those
Yeah.
assumptions, so it is that journey of how do we do that? So I think part of what I think business and coaching master is being able to adapt to what the needs of the marketplace is, while still staying true to the skills of your coach and staying
Mhm.
true to who you are and your strengths so you can serve people.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love it because you're taking us to this other component, this other arm of coach mastery is who are your clients and what are their evolving needs, right?
Yeah.
Though the context in which we are coaching continues to have such dramatic changes, right? I think we can think pre 2020, there was change. There was incremental
Mm-hmm.
change, but now these last 4 or 5 years have just been ongoing radical change. And that may
Yeah.
mean that your clients and the client needs and the areas you're coaching in actually are changing quite a bit. Maybe you never considered yourself to be a well-being coach, but you realize now 50% of your clients are burned out. So you've got to add that, right? It's no longer about other things. It's about
Yeah.
adding new elements. And so, invitation to really think about who and what are the needs of your clients in this moment in time, not 6 months ago, not 3 years ago, but now and in the future. I
Mm-hmm.
continue to have people say, how are you always one step ahead? Because I'm always looking to the future, right? We are not in a world that is going to slow down. At least that is my belief. And it's a pretty strong belief. But certainly as it relates to the work we do as coaches, we've got to have our heads up and be noticing the
Mm-hmm.
trends and the patterns and what is ahead, not what is behind. And so client work, that's a big focus of what we do, right? From our essentials programming all the way up into the mastermind.
Absolutely.
It's like, what do they need right now? And how can you serve that need with the tools and skills that you have? And I
Mm-hmm.
think, again, I love seeing coaches realize there's more than this one track that I've been exposed to. And just even a few hours ago, got off a call with someone who said, there's so much power in a group process. I think a lot
Yes.
of us have not been in a true group process. We've been in group learning environments on big webinars, but that's very different than being in
Different.
small, intimate groups of 4 to 8 people where you really get to know
Mm-hmm.
each other and learn with each other and from each other. It's not about the coach, it's as much about the
Yeah.
peers as it is the coach. And so, invitation for listeners to really also think about what are those learning experiences you're cultivating? What are you, how are you learning?
Mm.
And from whom are you learning? Personally, right now, I'm in a phase of what do I do for my own learning, right? This year, I've had some really great experiences of jumping
Mm.
more back into creativity coaching, and I'm loving that. The business coaching I get, it's stale. I'm feeling really stale. And maybe that maybe people will be listening to this or go, really? But I think I've been very clear. It's not upping the game anymore. And in my line of work, if you're not being challenged, if you're not being called forward,
Yeah.
is that mastery? I think it's good work, but is it the great work? And that's been a driving force for me for a long time. So invite for those listeners to think about, like, how are you upping your game? Is it a season where you're ready to move out of the plateau and ready to increment again? Or are you happy where you are? Maybe people are happy, right? We can't be growing every moment of the year.
No, you've said so much, Jen. It's like, oh my gosh, where do I start? Right. But I think one of the things that I really want to highlight in what I heard, at least in what you're saying, is the listening part. Like, even what I really appreciate about you is you always, because you have so much exposure in different areas, because you're in constant conversations with diverse people, is you're always listening to what is the need? What is the need? So this is not about Jen, and then you identify based on what you're listening, what can you offer in what you have, or is it time to create something
Yeah.
for the need? So I think a big part of
Mhm.
whether you're doing one-on-one coaching and wanting to jump into group or team coaching, or whether you're in group already doing group and team, just like I'm doing, is I'm listening. So our coaching skill that we have, it's, are we listening to what the market needs, to what our clients need, to what our clients are saying, but also to what they're not saying, right? And how can we support them? So I think part of that whole client focus, and we touch on this very much in Group Coaching Essentials and the Practicum and further programs, is like our clients are at the center of this, which moves us out of that facilitation conversation and keeps you anchored in the coaching conversation. A lot of people, we were talking about this before we got on the call. We come into Group Coaching Essentials. Week 1, we start highlighting what are some of those nuances.
Yes.
Right? Client-centered is what keeps you in this conversation. And I'm going to say this because we said it's going to be provocative. A lot of people are saying they're doing group coaching, but I'm not quite sure if they actually are, because they're so holding on to that agenda, to that curriculum. You're not group coaching. If that's what you're doing, if you're making it be about you and getting through A, B, C, D, and E, this is not group coaching. This is not team coaching. And so that's what coach mastery is. So maybe you need to go, oh, here I'm thinking I'm doing it, but am I? So maybe your next step is actually jumping into an essentials program or something, whether it be with us or we advocate with us because we've been doing this for 20 years, but really to like come back to ground earth and go, hold on, like how do these things fit to what I actually want to create based on what I'm hearing by my people?
Right.
Ironically enough, right now. Right? So we can be ahead of the curve in what are the needs of our clients, our participants.
So you were about to start saying something new, like ironically. What was the irony? I'm curious.
It's gone.
It's gone. Okay.
It's gone. It'll come back, I'm sure.
It'll come back, and it sort of takes me to that different people need different things. And one of our advanced programs or intermediate programs is coaching diverse teams and groups, where coaches get to really realize, wow, I've been actually sort of going to the same tools in my toolbox every week, rather than thinking about the many tracks, the many pathways into different conversations. And so that's another piece of mastery that I'd really love to challenge listeners to right now. What are you doing consistently? And where are you not going regularly? Right? I think we get very comfortable just because that's it. Like if we're in our comfort zone, we're in our comfort zone. We're not stretching. I think there's a lot of stretch in the world right now. So it's nice to just show up to something that's predictable and easy and it flows. How long do you want to sustain that for? Is that like forever? But I think that the mark of mastery is when we get out into that stretch zone again and really be looking in service to the client to really think about what are we not doing? What are we not using? What needs a brush off? Because there are many ways through a conversation. Many, many ways. And that's also linked to something you pointed to as well. Like we need to know ourselves. Yes, we need to lean into strengths, but just like the superpowers, and hopefully you've listened to that episode, we've got to cultivate all 5. So if you are the more typical, and a few weeks ago, I pulled out the 2024 data around our sort of breakdown of the superpowers. It hasn't shifted much in the last year. Grounded labyrinth style is the least. So I think an invitation for everyone to think about, how are you creating more pause? What are you doing to take people into a journey of reflective, I'll use the word pause again, right? Like a reflective space. Because it's about 7 or 8% of respondents of the superpower quiz, which is now in its thousands of responses, 6 to 7 to 8%. That's a pretty big range, but that's not a lot. That's not a lot compared to the 33% of Spiral Lighthouse coaches.
No. Well, and what I'm hearing in that is like, where are you in taking the pause for yourself, let alone so then you can create the pause for your participants, your clients.
Yes.
Right now, at the time of recording, we're just coming into winter seasons. So again, seasonality, we're slowing down. Like this is a time to slow down. So what are those, we're talking about tools and skills. Like what are your tools to support you to slow down? The seasonality of slowing down, because it is that, because a lot of our clients are movers and shakers. And so that's why the superpower, the range of ourselves as coaches, we need to be able to adapt to the needs of our clients. I say this to my clients, I'm your mirror. Sometimes I mirror exactly who you are. So just so I can hold you into your space. Sometimes I'm the mirror who needs to actually point out or identify, where are those opportunities? Sometimes I'm your champion mirror. So you really need to be able to be adaptable. But part of that requires our own self-awareness of our own selves and how we do our own life, how we do our own business, how we do our own leadership.
Right. It always comes back to range. It is who we are and how we show up and what we've chosen to explore and what we've chosen to own and the things that we choose to move the needle on as well. There's, I'm trying to think of a good quote, but of course, no quotes are coming to my mind, but I know there's many authors who have really written on this component. And I think in service to clients, what's going to help you help them even more than what you're doing right now.
And that's what you touched on a few minutes ago, just speaks to that. If we are so much in our comfort, it doesn't mean if values, like vision is a big part of your work. I'm really trying to see how I can do more, bring more vision. So that's that's my expansion, we'll say, because there is a value of vision in the work that I do, right? And the tools that I can kind of do it, grandiose or not. But it is that, like, we have to identify where we are comfortable in, but always going back to that client piece that's of service to them. We have a responsibility to grow and evolve ourselves in service to our clients. So if you are getting in your client's way of their growth, you got to put that stop sign up and go, hold on a second. Where do I need to grow? Where do I need to evolve? Whether it be as a coach, whether it be as a human, whether it be as a business leader, it could be any of and all of those and more.
Yeah. Well, I know the stop sign was a piece that showed up it was one of our cards in the 30-day writing sprint, which I always think it's interesting when we use creative approaches, which is why I'm doing so much work in the creativity event. How do we use that as an interesting, you could call it a quantum flirt if you focus on, sort of quantum physics, but it's like, what is being called out? And it's so fascinating having gone through 30 days of creative prompts and bringing those in, how that, whether it was 6 a.m. in the morning, how that element showed up in many different ways, but really created a pattern interrupt for the day. So one day the stop sign came out and it really was interesting because it was like, ooh, we're not talking about what you need to do more of. It's like, what do you need to stop? That's a very different energy. So again, invitation for you as a coach, as you're listening, to think about what are you doing to cultivate and also expose yourself to lots of different approaches. And that, again, is something that we try to do in all of our programs, whether you come and join us for a 10-hour CCE program that runs for 5 weeks, or whether you jump into the mastermind, which runs for 7 months. I'm really excited. And maybe as we go to wrap up today's episode, like I'd love to wrap this up with like, what are you excited about in terms of the next arc? And for me, it really is in, not only stepping into a new year in a few weeks, but like having these newer groups forming that last months, right? I really love being a mentor coach and being with the same group for 3 months, or the mastermind, it's going to be 7 months. Coaching Biz Growth Lab is 12 months. And there's sort of a really interesting rhythm that gets formed as groups begin to know each other and call each other forward as well, because it's not only the coach that does the work, it's the peer-to-peer relationship. And that's personally what I'm excited about. And I think part of my coach mastery is about helping equip others, whether they're leaders or peers, to call others forward. It's the ripple effect in yet another
Yeah.
different way. So what are you excited about, Evana, right now as it relates to mastery and growth for yourself?
Yeah, for me, I'm just looking at these 5 pieces and they overlap. So to me, it's really around like the end of 2024. I've really been able to kind of start we'll say a new niche, a new exploration while continuing to work with women. And some of these women in Italy are also going through relationship transition. So it's very, very interesting. But as a coach mastery, to me, is really bringing what I'm learning in the one-on-one piece for the English conversation. And now looking, how can I create a group, create a community with that? But also a layer of that is like supporting these beautiful Italian native speakers to access English with different tools. So using your charms. So really exploring the creativity. I even thought like we need to make this fun. Like this is coaching, but this like it can get heavy. Whether it's so the overlap between relationship transition and all that, like, and even developing, it's really about evolution and evolving. Is some of this stuff can feel heavy. So what in my coach master is really, how can I bring lightness? And part of it is creativity, tools, that stuff. But what are different ways I can actually bring that? And that's my own personal stretch because I tend to make things heavy. So it's the self-growth to support the client growth and to support the business growth. Like they all overlap and intersect.
They do, which is why there are 5 of them. And we're going to be taking a much deeper dive around these in 2025. We also look forward to bringing different voices to the table. One of the things Evana and I were talking about just before this is we're coming up next year will be year 19 of the Group Coaching Essentials program. This year, we've been celebrating the birth of the business, right? Potentials Realized, which not only does group and team coaching training, but works with leaders, works with entrepreneurs. But I'm excited for like 15 months from now as we get into the 20th year of celebrating Group Coaching Essentials. And part of my dream, and I was talking with Yvonne about this, is like maybe bringing back people through the cohort from the January 2006 when Group Coaching Essentials was first offered, and meeting with some of those coaches to hear about what are you doing out in the world? What are they seen as the shifts? And so we will be starting to intersperse as we move into 2025 our episodes with special guests, past alumni from our programming, other people doing this work, because I think we want to really model this notion of mastery. We need to get out of our own zone. And I take something you said, Evana, as a compliment. Like one of the reasons why I'm in all these diverse conversations is because I'm a multidisciplinarian, right?
Yeah.
Talking about climate in 1 hour is as important as talking about business the next hour.
Totally.
Thinking about corporate versus nonprofit, we need to learn across boundaries. I think part of the reason we're in such moments of complex change, and I don't want to use the word trouble, but like there are massive wicked problems in the world right now. We need to be thinking differently. We need to be in spaces and places where we are being challenged, and our mindsets and our academic frameworks are being challenged. So we're going to be bringing that in as we go into 2025. Woohoo! Well, any final words as we go to think about, as I said in the Coach Mastery, the development of the coach is multi-layered. And so I think we've pointed to a lot of those layers today. That's for sure.
Yeah. I would just invite everyone to kind of look at those 5 toolkits and skills: clients, business, self, coaching diverse teams and styles. And where do you fit? Like, where is your range? Where is your barometer? Where do you want to put some intentionality going into the new year, going into the next season, the next cycle of your business, whatever that is for you? Yeah.
Well said.
Awesome. Can't wait.
Can't wait. Well, as always, we're trying to keep these brief to the point. Thanks for joining us today. Do share this within your network and leave us a comment. Which one are you going to be working on? We'd love to hear from you. All right. Be well, everyone, and we'll see you in our next episode. Take care.
Awesome. Bye.
Bye.